And you don't believe the angel of the Lord is the Lord himself?
Well, no, by definition, an angel is a messenger who is sent.
So the messenger is not the sender himself. Trinitarians believe that the angel of the Lord is Jesus pre-incarnation.
We have this idea in Judaism called dual causality. The idea of dual causality is the same action attributed both to the sender and the messenger. When the messengers of Balak in the book of Numbers come to him, they say, they come to Balaam, to Bilam. They say, thus saith Balak, and then every word after that are Balak's words. They say, I don't remember the exact words, but he says, I, and the messenger doesn't mean I, me, he means I, the one who sent me.
All right, is that shaliach?
You could call it in Christian terminology, I think you would call this.
Well, it's a Jewish term, shaliach, right?
Agency.
Agency? Isn't that a Hebrew term, shaliach?
Shaliach is a Hebrew term. However, the word for messenger is malach, and it comes from the Semitic root lamed aleph kaf, la'aka, which means to send. For example, in Arabic, la'aka just means he sent. In Hebrew, we say shalach. In Arabic, they say la'aka, but we clearly have the word in Hebrew too, in the form of malach, which is the one who is sent.
Dual causality would explain why oftentimes the prophets speak as God in the first person sometimes.
Absolutely, and they go back and forth. The other thing that explains that is that Hebrew doesn't have indirect speech. Biblical Hebrew doesn't have indirect speech. So in modern Hebrew, you do. So in English, I can say, my boss told me to pick up the papers. Indirect speech. Direct speech is, my boss told me, comma, pick up the papers. Or my friend said that he hates coffee. My friend didn't say the word he hates coffee. My friend said, I hate coffee. So I hate coffee is direct speech. He hates coffee is indirect speech. Biblical Hebrew does not have indirect speech. It only has direct speech. And as a result, just grammatically, if somebody is speaking on behalf of someone else, they have to use their words. They don't have a grammatical form to say, Balak says that he wants you to come and curse Israel. They have to say, Balak says, come and curse Israel for me. And then the messenger points to himself. But he doesn't mean me, he means his sender. Now, Judges 6:14, then Yehovah turned to him and said, go in this might of yours and deliver Israel. And literally it says, and save Israel. Right? So we have throughout the book of Judges in particular, we have people who are described as saviors. Now, how do we reconcile that with Isaiah? Isaiah says that there's only one savior. Isaiah 40 through 66. But what we do have in those chapters, he's dealing with Cyrus, who's a Zoroastrian. And the Zoroastrians believed there were two gods. They believed there was a good god, it was Ahura Mazda, and the evil god was Ein Germanu. And you had to choose whose side you were on, because at one day, in the final time, there would be a celestial battle between good and evil, and you would decide, would you be one of the minions of Ein Germanu, or would you fight on the good side for Ahura Mazda? And so while Isaiah is addressing these Zoroastrians who believe in two gods, explicitly they believe, they only worship the one God, but they believe in both, he repeatedly talks about how there is only one God and there is no other. He talks about how he is the only savior in the later chapters of Isaiah, and there is no other. Yet at the same time, we see that Gideon's called the savior, Samson's called the savior. How do we explain that? So Jews have no problem with that. That's dual causality. Yehovah did it through the agency of his messenger who he sent to save Israel.